On June 10, 1944, a small village in central France was surrounded, sealed off, and erased in a matter of hours. By the end of the afternoon, 643 people were dead, men, women, and children. The village was called Oradour-sur-Glane. What happened there was not a battle. It was not crossfire. It was not collateral damage. It was a decision. 4 days earlier, on June 6, Allied forces had landed in Normandy. D-Day signaled the beginning of the liberation of Western Europe. While the world focused on the beaches to the north, a different movement was unfolding inland. The 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich received orders to move from southern France toward Normandy to counter the Allied advance. The division was commanded by SS General Heinz Lammerding. On the ground, the detachment operating near Oradour was led by Major Adolf Diekmann. As the division advanced, it faced resistance activity, sabotage of rail lines, ambushes, and attacks by French resistance fighters. The German response followed a clear doctrine: collective punishment. Civilian populations suspected of aiding resistance groups were to be terrorized into submission. On June 9, in the town of Toul, 99 men were publicly hanged as reprisal. The message was unmistakable. The next day, June 10, SS troops entered Oradour-sur-Glane. The village had no established reputation as a resistance stronghold. There had been no recent clashes recorded there. Nevertheless, residents were ordered to assemble in the village square under the pretext of an identity check. Men were separated from women and children. The process that followed was methodical. Approximately 190 men were divided into groups and taken to barns and storage sheds around the village. Around 4 p.m., machine guns were positioned at the entrances. According to survivor testimony and post-war investigations, the gunfire was aimed low, striking the victims in the legs to prevent immediate escape. The buildings were then set on fire. Those still alive died from burns or suffocation. At the same time, 247 women and 205 children were confined inside the village church. Shortly afterward, an incendiary device was detonated inside the building. Witness accounts describe a container or explosive device that filled the church with dense smoke. As panic spread and some attempted to escape through windows, they were met with gunfire. The church was then set ablaze. Only one adult woman, Marguerite Ruffanche, survived from inside the church. She escaped by climbing through a rear window and hid in a nearby garden, wounded by gunfire. She remained concealed until the following day. By nightfall, Oradour-sur-Glane was in ruins. 643 civilians were dead. Among them were 205 children, some infants. There had been no battle. Why Oradour? In the years that followed, explanations were debated. Some SS members later claimed the operation was retaliation for the alleged kidnapping of a German officer by resistance fighters. Another theory suggested that the troops may have confused Oradour-sur-Glane with a different village, Oradour-sur-Vers, where resistance activity was stronger. However, historians have found no definitive evidence of mistaken identity. What is documented is the broader context. The Das Reich division was under pressure to reach Normandy quickly. Resistance attacks slowed their movement. Nazi anti-partisan doctrine permitted extreme reprisals against civilian populations. The logic was not impulsive, it was systematic. Oradour was not unique in the scale of violence seen across occupied Europe, but it became unique in how it was remembered. After the liberation of France, the leader of Free France, Charles de Gaulle, made a decision that would define Oradour's legacy. The ruins would remain exactly as they were. They would not be rebuilt. They would not be cleared. A new village would be constructed nearby. The old one would stand as a permanent memorial. Today, visitors walk through streets where burned-out cars remain in place. Sewing machines sit rusted inside roofless homes. Tram tracks end abruptly in open air. The clock stopped in the late afternoon of June 10, 1944, and it was never restarted. In 1953, surviving members of the unit involved were tried in Bordeaux. 21 defendants appeared in court. Among them were 14 men from Alsace who had been forcibly conscripted into the Waffen-SS, known as the Malgré-nous, meaning against our will. 2 defendants were sentenced to death. Others received prison terms. Shortly afterward, however, a French amnesty law led to the release of most of the Alsatian conscripts, sparking national controversy. Survivors and victims' families felt justice had been compromised. Heinz Lammerding was sentenced to death in absentia by a French court but remained in West Germany, which refused to extradite him. He lived there until 1971 without serving a sentence in France. Adolf Diekmann was killed in combat in Normandy on June 29, 1944, just weeks after the massacre. Accountability was incomplete. In 1999, the Centre de la Mémoire d'Oradour was inaugurated near the entrance to the preserved ruins. The museum contextualizes the massacre within the broader history of Nazi occupation and resistance in France. The site has become one of the most significant memorials of World War II in the country. In 2013, French President François Hollande and German President Joachim Gauck visited Oradour-sur-Glane together. It was the first official visit to the site by a German head of state. The gesture marked an important step in historical acknowledgement and reconciliation between the two nations. The village that was meant to be silenced became one of the most enduring symbols of Nazi terror in France. Here lies the historical irony. The massacre was intended as intimidation, a warning carved in fire. Instead, it became testimony. Oradour was not erased from memory. It was preserved in absence. There are no heroic statues in the ruins. No reconstructed facades to soften the impact. The destruction itself is the monument. The decision not to rebuild was deliberate. It reflects a national choice about memory. Some societies reconstruct and move forward. Others leave scars visible as warning. Oradour-sur-Glane remains suspended in time because forgetting was judged more dangerous than remembering. The massacre did not alter the strategic outcome of World War II. It did not slow the Allied advance. Militarily, it changed nothing. Morally, it changed everything. What burned on June 10, 1944, was a living community. What survived was evidence, physical, undeniable, resistant to denial. The soldiers destroyed a village. History preserved a witness.